Hi, welcome back. So today I'm going to create that very in trend clean beauty look. Now I feel like this is more than a trend and more just like a classic, fresh, just a little bit leveled up from a no makeup look. So that sort of very crisp, clean cut look. You don't look like you're wearing an extreme amount of makeup, but you look fresh, you look clean, you look put together. That sort of well put together look, that's what I'm going to create here. Okay, so I'm going to start off with my brows, just because there are a few things that you want to pay attention to when it comes to the fresh, clean look. The three main things: your skin, your brows, and your lashes. Everything else isn't really as important, but those three things, making sure that they are as pristine and as defined and neat as possible, are the main things that are going to really take this look from like a normal, fresh, clean look to elevated. These are the sort of makeup artistry trick elements which you put into play to create that real next level version of this look, rather than the sort of the everyday slap on version. So I'm going to go in with the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Freeze. As you can see, I like this a lot just for taming the brow hairs. Now I have quite full brows, so I don't push this up as much as say I would if someone had thin brows and they wanted a thicker look. For me, it is literally just more to push the outer edges in place. Just so, can you see it just gives that lift to the brow. This area here, I just tickle the product in just to keep it level. But then on the outside, that's where I really push it up to give that elevated look. This look is also very much about everything looking lifted and snatched, would you say? But without it looking, again, overly done. It's almost that sort of beauty procedure face, if that makes sense. So it's like things look lifted and tight and all pristine and like spa ready, but through makeup as much as you can, obviously, depending on your skin and everything like this. I'm going to talk through that throughout the whole video. So just lifting these areas up. Let's push that up a little bit more, just for effect's sake. Okay, I'm going to let that dry in. It's really important when you're using a product like this not to go in with product whilst it's still wet, because what will happen is you will try and use that ink or that pencil or whatever you're using on top of it, and it will mix in with the formula of this whilst it's still drying, and it will dilute the pigment, and then it will be harder to work with and harder to manage. Let this completely dry and then go in with it later. Next, I'm going to go in with foundation. I actually mix two. I'm going to mix the Stay Naked Urban Decay foundation with the Kaya Cosmetics It's Iconic foundation. Main reason is I like both formulas, but I love this one specifically, but I want it a little bit sheerer. And this one has more of a watery liquid consistency. I love both individually on their own, but mixed together, it's going to create the consistency that I really want, which is that sort of leveled up from a tinted moisturizer but still foundation type effect. And also as well, the tone of this and the tone of this mixed together for me creates my exact perfect color, and you'll see exactly what I mean. So a 50-50 mix between these two creates the perfect color. And when it comes to this clean look, the color of your foundation is going to be one of the biggest things that makes the biggest difference. If you get the color wrong, throw it out the window. It's no longer a clean beauty look. It's just not going to look clean on your skin, because it's going to be the wrong shade, whether it's too light, whether it's the wrong tone, or if it's too dark. If you don't get this bit right, you may as well give up right now, or you have to commit to dragging it down the whole way down and making sure that it's in the hairline properly. Say if you want to go darker, I'm just mixing foundation. Say if you want to go darker, but you want it to look clean and fresh, you have to commit. Go all the way in the ears, behind the back. If your hair is up, make sure that this bit is covered as well. Otherwise, clean beauty out the window. Bye. Sorry. So I've got my shade. right there. I'm going to use quite a dense brush. I'm using the Too Faced Mr. Perfect brush, and it's just the densest brush that I own because I really want to push this into the skin. Look at how that melts into my skin, that color. And I'm really pressing it in. I want this to sort of dissolve into my skin as much as I can. Again, the fresh, clean beauty look is very much about it looking effortless. You know, someone just looks so effortlessly put together. It's all about that. So let me do one side and you can see just how important that color match is. Look at this. It's spot on. It just dissolves into the skin. Avoid the brows. Try not to go or like touch the brows whilst that product's still setting in the brows. You just be gentle around those areas. Get it as close as you can, but don't interfere with the product setting. So I'm just going round. Look at that. Now, bear in mind, this was my better side. Like my dog decided to give me a nice slap around the face, and also I have an angry spot that I decided to poke at. So obviously this side does look better as well because it is a side which hasn't got any like impurities. I can't speak today. I can never speak when I film. But you can see how this still looks like my skin, but it just looks more even, more fresh, clean, put together. Let's do this side now. Okay, so we've done that and the brows have now dried down. So I'm going to go in now with my brow product and complete the brows. For years, I have loved using liquid pens for brows. This is even before there was actually quite a saturated market with the liquid brow pen vibe. I used to use brown liquid liner because I couldn't find the right products for the brows. But now there's so many options. I'm just using Glossier because this is the first one I could grab. I normally go grab from Glossier or the NYX Lift and Snatch pens. I can never get the name right, but the liquid brow pen that they have. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill in gaps. I'm not creating a super sharp defined brow. I want it to look as natural as possible, but as defined as possible. So I'm going to go in with the bulk of my gaps, which is in these areas here. So I'm just using a very light hand. Can you see how I'm using my pinky here just to create an anchor? So I'm not going in rogue and like shaking everywhere. If you just put your finger on your face, it creates a little anchor so you've got a bit more stability when you're applying your product. And I'm just literally, for now, filling in the main bulk of the gaps in my brows. I'm not looking at defining or changing the shape just yet. And again, to be honest, my brow shape is quite defined. So for me, this is a lot easier. If you say you wouldn't have as much of a defined brow as I do, just go as much in the middle as possible first, and then later on you can start mapping out your brow. But for me, again, we're just going in and we're just filling in that main middle area of the brow. So now that we've done that, we can go in and start filling in around the outer edges. So got a bit of regrowth here. I just want to fill in those lines underneath. Concentrate most of your work on the outer as well. Leave this bit till last, because what happens if you start from in here, you'll end up having quite a heavy middle of the brow and it makes you look quite angry. Start halfway outer edge and then work back into the center if needs be, because when you do this side, you actually then realize that you may not have needed as much in the center as possible, and then when you go from here across, it'll end up just getting super heavy and you can't correct it. So start on the outer edge. So for me, I want to so we're ignoring this bit, we're going across from the edge of the nose through the pupil, and that's where the point of the pen is, that's where I want my arch to be. My arch is a little bit less defined. Again, not drastically, but enough that I want to add in. So I'm going to start adding in just strokes of this pen on the outer edge. If you feel like you've pressed down too hard, can you see those little bubbles where the ink has dispersed a bit too much? You just comb through with the brush as lightly as you can, just to knock that back. But don't worry too much about it at the moment. Just make sure that you're using a very small amount. And so I'm literally just going in now and just fine tuning the shape. Can you see how I've just lifted that arch a little bit more? there. And now I want to go from the corner of the nose from outside the eye, and that's where my brow should end. So my brow is a little bit shorter than what is complementary for my shape. So I'm going to take it from the top here, and I'm going to lift it a little bit higher because we want that lifted look. So I'm using very light strokes. You can see how very gentle I'm being with the pen. If you go closer in, you'll have more stability, but you may press a bit too hard. So just be as light as you can with your grip. Like so. Now I feel like that arch is a little bit too pointed for my liking personally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just brush over the top just to soften that a little bit. That's better. That's more like it for me. So can we see? I feel like I need to just put a few little bits in here just to tidy that up. Nice. I'm going to do the other side now. Okay, you can really clearly see now which one is my favorite brow. I definitely prefer this one. And what I will do is I'll show you how to balance them out to match, because it's still not lost. So this one I just find always ends up staying at the perfect fitness. So this one always ends up being a little bit weird. So what I do, I go in with a concealer brush, a flat one, and I've got a very, like almost like an excess amount of concealer on it. So it's just like a brush that's just stained with product. And what I do is I'm just going around the edges that I want to just sort of define a bit more. And I'm just cleaning it up. Again, you literally, there's barely any product on here. It's almost like the remnants of concealer. So that was just a bit too much there. So we just need to blur that. But can we see how we're just cleaning it up without adding more product? So now I feel like that they're at a level where they are balanced and that they are looking similar. Not identical, just similar. All right, perfect. Now let's go in and conceal. Actually, no. I'm going to go in and bronze. So I'm going to actually use a darker foundation in the Ciate Cosmetics. It's Iconic. I love using this as my bronzer. I just find it's the perfect shade, and also I love cream products for this look. When your skin looks natural, it looks more fresh. And when it looks more fresh, it generally looks more put together. And this look is all about being put together. So I want to do this as lightly as I can. And so what I'm going to do is I've got a pump on the back of my hand. That's probably a bit too much actually, but I'm going to grab my brush and I'm going to stick it straight in. And I'm going to work that into the brush. You want to get it really into the bristles to the point where this is just a stain when you apply it. So you'll see now when I actually put it onto the skin, it's lightweight. So we're just adding, and we're just using sort of, we're pressing on the skin and we're buffing it and bouncing it on. And I'm just popping this on my cheekbones and just on the temples of my face. I have a heart-shaped oval face, so I would avoid putting anything on my chin area because this area is already defined. So if I define that as well as everywhere else, I'll just be creating the exact same shape but just smaller. So I actually want to make this area smaller, so I only define and sculpt these areas and I leave this alone. Same with if you had other areas that maybe you wanted to define, you would only want to push those areas in, not the whole thing. This whole like shape of a 3 thing, it's not really relevant. It's just going to make the same shape that you already have, but smaller. So we are being very diagnostic with where we're placing the product. So for me, it's just my cheeks and my temples to push this in and balance this out. Also, I'm going to just drag some of that down my neck, just because the center of my neck here is always lighter than my face and my chest. So I'm just bronzing that up and bringing it down. Now again, as I said, if you're going to darken anything or any area, you need to commit to the full cause. So this is almost your demonstration if you're darkening anything. Put it in your ears, put it behind your ears as well. So So it all looks consistent. You don't want any areas sort of dobbing you in and giving you away. So we've used that just to bronze up the whole area like so. Look at the scratch from my dog. Silly boy. So now we've bronzed up, but we've got the main foundation is correct. We've just bronzed in areas. Now I'm going to go in and conceal. Actually, before I conceal, I want to just make a note. So for me, my clean, fresh beauty look involves not actually using eyeshadow because my eyeshadow is naturally quite pigmented. But say if your eyes aren't pigmented and they don't have that sort of natural smoky effect as I have, then go in with some of that bronzer shade, the cream shade, with a brush like this and just rock it into the socket, but don't make it too dark. It's just like a little bit of a stain of product. Just go over the top of that. So I just did that, and I've actually knocked back some of my darkness, but I've just created a little bit more consistency across the whole eye. I don't want to brighten this up too much, or you don't want to darken it too much because it will look artificial. So this is literally just making everything just streamlined and smooth. Let's pop a bit of mascara on now. So I would curl your lashes if you don't have your lashes like lifted or anything. My lashes are lifted, so I don't need to do this. But curl your lashes, very important step. And then really coat that mascara into the eye, into the lashes. So you want to just press and rock it in. You want to make sure that all the lashes are nicely coated and separated. I don't mind a little bit of a clumpy lash, so for this, like that full volume look, so I'm going to leave mine as I leave them. But if you like that full separated look, I would comb through them with like a clean mascara wand as well, like so. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add like a little bit of a flick, but I'm going to use a shadow. I'm going to use a brush to do it rather than using actual eyeliner. Again, we want this to look as clean and crisp and fresh as possible. I'm grabbing a palette like this, so it's all like neutral mattes. I'm going to go in with this shade with an angled brush. I'm going to just follow the lower lash line just to create a bit of an angle there. Let me get closer actually, can you see? And then I'm just going to push that back into the eye. Again, this is, we don't want this to look very makeup-y. We're just adding a little bit of a definition there, like so. We're going to tidy and clean this up after with concealer. But again, we're following the angle of the lower lash line, and then we're connecting it up. Okay, concealer time. So this is important too. Everything is important, but the important thing is to be very smart with your placement. So I'm popping just a tiny bit on the back of my hand. I'm going to use the KVD Beauty Good Apple Concealer, I think that is. Yeah. And this is medium 152. And I'm going to use that flat brush that I used before. And I'm going to, first things first, just sharpen up under here, under that liner that we drew. This is going to create a crisp look to that line. Just popping that there. Pat that in. Can we see how that's just already just sharpened it up? And just connecting that down. Can you see by creating the definition with the concealer rather than with like a liquid pen, it still looks soft, but it looks very clean and very crisp, because with the eyeshadow, you're creating a little bit more of translucency with the pigment. Whereas if you use a liquid, it'll be a lot more opaque, and that's when it would look more sharp and more done. But we want this to look a little bit softer. Okay, so we've done that with that brush. Now I'm going to change to a domed brush, grab a small amount. So I'm really rubbing it into the brush, and we're going to just concentrate the pigment in the inner corner. We don't really need to do much in this area here because there's not much darkness there. To really keep this nice and clean and fresh, we want to just concentrate the concealer only where it's needed. And the majority of the time, it's only in that little corner there. So we're just grabbing a little bit at a time and we're just pressing and working that in. Can you see how brightening up just that little corner there, it creates a whole illusion of the whole area being bright. But we've only put concealer here, and we've only put concealer here. We also, when we're doing this, so you're not going to be able to completely cover up your darkness. When it comes to the clean look, the texture of the skin and how the skin looks texturally is so much more important than how it looks when via like coverage and stuff like that. So even if some of that stuff does poke through, if it starts to look more makeup-y and like there's too much buildup of product, stop. This is more important. So for example, things like this, I can't cover because they're textures, they're built up. The redness around it though, I can, but very, very lightly. But don't waste time trying to get that bump to go because you can't get rid of it. It's like trying to smooth over a dent in the wall with paint. It's just going to put a layer of paint on top of it. It's not going to actually cover it. So on other areas where there's pigment, yes, knock it back, but preserve the texture as much as you can. And can you see I'm doing a lot of very light pressing in areas rather than sweeping? Because that I'm going to be able to really press and stain that pigment and that concealer into the skin so that I don't have to use as much. And also it dries faster. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and powder before I go in with my products for blush and for highlighter. So I'm going in with a powder puff. I use the LH Cosmetics powder puff and I'm using the Laura Mercier translucent powder in Honey. That yellow tone is going to help brighten up for my skin tone. If you are fairer than me, this may not work for you, but if you are my sort of skin tone, this color is perfect. I'm just going to press that powder into the skin. Can you see how that just flattens the skin and minimizes the pores? I'm doing this very, very gently with a very small amount of product. Look at that, straight away. It's taken away the texture. And so I'm just going around the nose, under the eyes, on the chin, around the nose here. And then I'm going to just stamp a little bit. Those are the areas I generally don't want shiny, so in the center of the face. Like so. So now what I'm doing is I'm just spraying my skin with a mist of setting spray. It's the Morphe setting spray I'm using, the continuous mist. I really like it because it doesn't leave any splatter marks on the face. I'm just doing this just to re-moisten the skin. This is not for longevity. Longevity in a sense that your textures will mesh better together, but this product alone isn't going to make your makeup last longer. It just helps bind everything together. Why I've done that is so that when I go in with my cream products now over the top of powdered skin, it won't sort of drag and it'll be easier to blend those products in. I'm going in with a liquid highlighter now, and I'm just going to, the same technique as with the bronzer, I'm going to really work that into my brush. I'm using a smaller domed brush, and I'm just going to lightly pat that into the skin just to create that natural radiance. This is all about being natural and fresh, so we don't want it to look powdery, we don't want it to look overly highlighted. We want this to look like it's lit from within. Look at that. No glitter, no shimmer, nothing. I can't actually tell you what this product is, but I'm working on it, But look at that. It just creates that lit from within luminosity to the skin. Now I'm going to go in with blusher. I'm going to use the Refi in Malaya. As you can see, I like it a lot. This is my personal one. And I'm going to just grab a small amount of that. And we're going to just press that into on top of where we put that highlighter. We want the skin to look fresh and flushed, and blusher is the one way to do that. So we want to just keep it on the outer edge and up. Don't put it too close to the face because it will look flushed rather than blushed. And this is all about looking clean and put together. Not that that doesn't look clean and put together, but this specific look is more lifted and pulled up, which if you put it in the center, it won't do that. Think stain when you are applying your product. So approach your makeup as you're doing painting on a canvas. So you don't want to pick up too much product. You want just a little wash of it on the brush so that when you put it on, it's not as opaque. It's the same concept with your face. Look at that. Ooh. Then we're gonna go over with the excess of the powder puff and just go back over those areas where maybe the setting spray knocked a bit of that matteness away. We want to just mattify it down again, just round there. Again, we're not adding more product to this. This is just the excess that's in the puff. Okay, so I just tidied up my hair. Obviously, I've been applying makeup and it's like ruined the hairline. So I've just like smoothed it nice and crisp. Now let's finish off with the lip. So with this, I want to stay as close to my lip line as possible and close to my lip color as possible. I'm going with LH Cosmetics Mellow Mauve, and I'm just going to lightly overline. Actually, that's a bit too light. Let's change it. Okay, so I'm going to go in with LH Cosmetics Sepia. And just not overly overlining the lips, just very subtly. I'm just actually going to draw it 3/4 of the way. I'm not connecting at the end. So just overlining there. Not connecting it. Like so. Now with lip, I'm going to actually just use, I've been using the Ciate, or Ciate, is that how you pronounce it? Raspberry Burst Exfoliating AHA BHA Roll-On. Just to literally, the main reason is just to moisten the lip. I don't want it to look too glossy. I don't want it to look too matte. I want it to just look like my lip, but better. And this just makes them look nice and juicy. And then you want to just blend that lip liner in with the lip so it doesn't look like an obvious line. Just use your finger and just press that in with the product. Oh, this is a treatment as well, so it's really nice. And there we have it. That is the Clean Beauty, my version of that. It's a little bit more sort of soft and defined, this type of look. It looks nice and presentable and pristine, but doesn't look overly done up. I really like this. I feel like this is like an elevated no makeup look. It's just like that super natural makeup look. And then obviously with the hair slicked back and how it's done, that is it. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching. If you did like this video, please do like and subscribe for more videos. I did promise this year that I would post more, and I will, and I have been. So yes, thank you so much, and until next time, bye.